and been charged with murder, or they wouldn't have fired upon him at all. What do you folks think? Are these people using tasers as replacement for firearms so that they don't have to kill people and use a gun? Or are they using it to justify shooting when otherwise they would not be able to? Bear in mind, this poor man died. How anyone can look at this and not see 4 criminals at work, I don't understand it. Replace that taser with a gun, and what would have happened? Clearly, they are not using a taser as a replacement for a firearm, but as a torture device.
At an airport, man.
So I had this epiphany yesterday concerning police and their use of tasers.
Yeah, for non-compliance.
Yeah, but when these tasers first came out, I remember reading about how they were saying the use of the taser, it's a replacement for a firearm, so that when they're in a position where they could use a firearm, instead they don't have to bring such level of violence. They can now bring a lower level of violence. So if someone, say, is trying to suicide by cop, they don't have to kill.
Exactly, that was the original proclaimed usage, but now it's, if you look on their order of engagement, it's right above non-compliance of an order, and way too low. It should be next to using a gun, and instead it's like, if you ask for a license and the person doesn't comply, then according to their official thing, they taser you.
Where did you see this official thing? This is what I want to address, Paul.
The order of engagement.
Can you send me a link to that?
Yeah, I'll have to find it again, but I saw it on a website.
These guys are using them. If they had come out, Paul, and said, listen, we want to equip our cops, we want to equip these policy enforcement officers with cattle prods so that if you start questioning them, they can torture you and shut you up. Do you think the people of Canada would have accepted that?
No, they don't even accept it now. If you look at the polls,
right,
the majority of people say they shouldn't have tasers, period.
These cops...
they don't listen to the majority.
You know what I realize is they come out and they say, okay, here's some tasers. They can use these tasers in place of a firearm. But then they start using the tasers where they would never be justified using a firearm. And then they come and say, okay, where they were using tasers is where they can use firearms. So now they get to use firearms where they would never have been allowed to use them before.
Yeah, it's just backwards retro logic.
Yeah, it's a 3-step process where it's almost conditioning, where they're conditioning us to accept having pain in order to achieve compliance, and they're conditioning the peace officers to torture in order to achieve compliance.
Yeah, that's true. They are. I agree with you 100%. They need to be dealt with in some kind of manner.
Do you think, remember where the poor guy in the airport was tasered and he ended up dying?
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen that clip.
Had that cop pulled out his firearm and shot the guy, do you think he would have been charged?
Definitely.
And yet,
I think the guy died from a broken neck.
And the thing is, then, if that's the case, are they in fact using it as a replacement for a firearm? Do you think they're using them properly, Paul, or are they using it to justify increasing their ability to bring violence?
Well, I still think cops aren't itching to shoot people just because it asks a lot more questions. I think they're able to taser people and not have to deal with as much paperwork and bullshit. They don't have to go to mandatory counseling like they do if they shoot somebody.
Right.
So the cops love the tasers because, exactly like you said, if you question their authority, it's basically the elites have mandated that they know we're waking up and that they know we're asking all these questions, and in order to prevent the questioning, i.e. leaving the herd, not going along with the rest of the cattle, they give them cattle prods and say, stay in line. You know what I mean? Do the transactions as they've always been done. Yeah. And don't question outside that, which we're starting to do. We're starting to realize it's an unfair game.
You must realize that the money and information must be
He was traveling in Surrey down a bike path without a helmet. Two SkyTrain cops considered this to be a breach of the peace, jumped in front of him, almost tackled him and slammed him. Didn't do it, but he felt that they were going to tackle him and slam him into a wall, threatened him with a taser in order to force him to show them ID, threatened to arrest him for obstruction of justice if he didn't produce ID. So do you think that this is proper actions for peace officers in a common law jurisdiction?
Absolutely not. But I think we really need to look at both the Criminal Code of Canada and find out exactly an obstruction of justice is defined as, because that seems to be the blanket charge that they put on you when you don't comply.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a law that says if you don't comply with an officer, even if he has no probable cause, then you can be acted upon, because that seems grossly outside the rule of law that I was aware of.
Yeah, me too, buddy, me too.
And, like, just, you know, with, like, especially with, like, hearing James's story from his mouth finally, and hearing how, you know, just for not producing a license under no probable cause, he gets grabbed by the hair and